Today in For the Halibut, we're going to make our own bird bath. I'm doing this because I broke ours and I tried to buy a new top because you have the bottom, right? So I tried to buy a new top and nobody has them in town. Actually, one place does, but it's crazy expensive and I refuse to buy that. So I saw an article about 10 years ago about how to make your own bird bath. And here we are in quarantine, perfect time to play with a giant project that I know nothing about. So first thing to do is to figure out the materials that we need. So in this project, you need a giant leaf. And I decided to go talk to my friend Becky, who lives down the street and knows everything about anything in nature. She's pretty amazing. This is Becky, and she took me around her yard to talk about what kind of leaf might work.
Giant hosta. I'm gonna get a giant maple. This large maple leaf came from very low down on the tree. Came from sort of like a sucker on the tree. And so the larger leaves are further down on a tree, and the further up you go, the smaller the leaves get, and that has to do with surface area for absorbing sunlight. So, so it's called a tulip tree not because the leaves are shaped like a tulip, but because the flower actually is shaped like a tulip. They're a very ancient kind of tree. They're more closely related to magnolias than any of our other regular street trees. So, May apple is really large, but again, it's actually, I guess it has a nice solid surface area because the parts of the leaf overlap. So mayapple. That's huge.
Nice.
This is a neat leaf from rhubarb. And rhubarb is something you don't want to eat uncooked, is what I hear. And you can't get any bigger than that. I mean, actually, you probably could, but it would be tropical.
So small leaves with cool shapes or one big leaf. Now I need a leaf. Here's our neighbor Ellie. She has a fantastic garden and she has rhubarb that she let us take a piece. You pull it out at the base and you have to be careful because rhubarb can sometimes irritate your skin. These are the materials that you need besides the leaf. You need concrete. You can get that at the hardware store. And then you need some kind of safety goggles and a mask because you obviously don't want to breathe the concrete. Beach sand if you want to reinforce it a little bit. And then water, a trowel, and some safety gloves. First thing you want to do is make a pile of dirt or sand on the ground. Pat it down so it basically looks like the back of a turtle. And you want to use your hands to smooth it down. Then you put down your leaf. Now you want to cut the stem off because if you don't, it's going to make a hole in the bottom of your bird bath and then nobody gets a bath. You can put a trash bag under the leaf, between the leaf and the pile if you want to. And this is what a bunch of leaves looks like. Put on your safety goggles, get ready, and start putting things into your bucket. Now we used a bucket, but you probably want to use some kind of a flatter surface, but it doesn't really matter. So beach sand, cement, make sure you're wearing a mask so you don't breathe the cement. Make sure you're wearing your glasses so it doesn't get in your eyes. We didn't use any particular measurements. We just kind of mixed maybe 3 scoops of sand with the concrete mix, which already has sand and gravel in it for strength. Add a little bit of water at a time. Stir it around with a trowel. You really got to dig in there. If you want to hear what it looks like or sounds like. There you go. So now you take the concrete, make sure it's about as thick oatmeal, and you kind of glop it onto your leaf. So you want it to be pretty thick. If it's too thin, it'll snap when you go to take it off. So a couple inches thick or so, or inch and a half thick. So put it on there with the trowel and then smooth it out with your gloves. Don't get the concrete on your skin. So pat it down, smooth it out, working around the edges. Because we did it right in the dirt, we wanted just kind of a earthy, funky edge. But if you did it on plastic, you could have a much smoother edge. You can also wait a couple weeks and then grind down the edge if you're feeling fancy. But we're just doing this for a little bit of fun. Now, leave them to dry. Make sure there's no rain coming. After a couple of days, this is what they'll look like. Carefully flip it over, and then you want to start kind of flaking off the dirt and peeling out your leaf. You want it to dry for another day or so this way, and then afterwards, there's the hosta. And then afterwards, you can add like some concrete sealer if you want to, but that's like expensive stuff you have to buy, and you have to make sure it's not toxic because obviously you don't want the birds to take a toxic bird bath. And that's what it looks like.
Oh my gosh! I love your bird bath. It's amazing.